Welcome back, students, to your online class of English. Last class we had begun with the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. We had completed the first two stanzas, and let us do the remaining two stanzas today. We saw that there is a traveler who is very confused as to which road he should take, and he is at a junction. He is at a point where the road splits into two and he is hesitating, he is staggering. Why? Because he needs to embrace one path for going for the eventual fate of his life. And he knows that it is troublesome for him to choose one. And the goal of both the streets is very obscure. When I say the goal of both the streets is obscure, I mean to quote the third one, two, three, four, the fourth line of the first stanza, the fourth and fifth lines of the first stanza, when he says, I looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. You see, he cannot see beyond one point. Why? Because those points are very symbolic of the problems. Those points are very symbolic of the impediments that he may face in his life. Because you see, we never know what problems lie ahead, isn't it? So they are very hidden. So these two lines, they are very symbolic of the uh, obstructions that one may face in his future life. Now you see, he says he needs to pick one of them because he cannot go on both the streets at once. And that is why he looks down on one street and he cannot, after a point, to a extent, because it twists in a thick development of bushes, that undergrowth that I was talking about. And he thinks that okay, he needs to make a decision, and he also convinces himself, saying, appeasing himself, pacifying himself, that the road that he is going to take is a superior claim. Why? Because it is lush and it should be utilized by him. Now, the third stanza, he says, and both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. So he says that specific morning, both the streets, both the roads lay equal. Okay, they were unused. And why do I say unused? Because you see, the second line of the third stanza says, in leaves no step had trodden black. So the leaves were yellow, they had not been trampled upon, they had not been crushed, and that is why yellow leaves did not turn into black, they were yellow. So they are unused. Okay, they are secured by any kind of takeoff, they are still in the yellow shading. So you see, it demonstrates that no one has utilized the streets up to that time. Now the poet needs to take the principal street on one more day because he is going to take the second street. And now he has to convince himself that the main street he will take some other day, which I address as the principal street. So he goes to the choice of taking the second street, which is the less trodden one. And he says that he spares the other street for one more day. And he keeps on watching. Nonetheless, he presumably will never pass along these lines again, isn't it? And consequently, you see, he will never have a chance to take the other street. Why? Because one path leads on two way, one road leads into another, yet another, again another, and until you end up, you reach very far. So he knows this. Still, he convinces himself. See, it's very common. Whenever we make a decision, we try to justify our actions. We try to convince ourselves that no, it's good that I'm doing this. Maybe if I do this or if I take that decision, uh, the ramifications would be little disheartening. So let me go with what my heart says or what my mind says. Over here, let me not go into that mind and heart topic, or else this will be an unending discussion. But then, what I want to say is, we generally, human beings, they generally have a tendency to justify their actions. So he's basically justifying himself, nothing else. And that is why I feel that this is a poem where you can relate, okay? Like everyone, because all of us take decisions in life, isn't it? Big, small, mediocre, but we do take decisions. And somewhere, we can relate to this poem very well. Coming to the fourth stanza, he says, I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Now, he says, what will happen after a long time? Now, instead of saying after a long time, he says ages and ages hence. Now, tell me, how is it possible that Frost will live and survive ages and ages? This is hyperbole. Figure of speech is hyperbole, where, the best example would be like, my favorite example is, I cried buckets and buckets. How is it possible you cried buckets and buckets? Okay, so you are exaggerating. Why? Because you want to draw the reader's attention. Okay? Excuse me. So he says, somewhere ages and ages, he would tell this with a sigh to his future generation, like maybe to his grandchildren. He will narrate this experience. And this sigh leaves the readers in a dilemma, leaves the readers in a quandary as to what kind of a sigh is this. Is it a sigh of relief, or is it a sigh of regret? Sigh of relief, why? Thank God I didn't take that road. That is why my life is so different. That is why my life is so good. Or else it could be a sigh of regret. Alas, why didn't I take that road? Maybe my life would have been better if I would have trudged on that road. So you see, there could be two possibilities. But whatever it is, he says that he would surely narrate this to his future generation and tell them two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And he says he would narrate this, and he would say that once upon a time, my dear children, my dear people, two roads had diverged in a wood, had bifurcated in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. You see, there has been an emphasis on I. Maybe he is proud of his decision. That is why he wants to say I. And I took the one less traveled by. Or it could be, a kind of regret. And I took the one less traveled by. But somewhere I feel, it's my personal interpretation, I feel that he is delightful, he is joyful, he is very happy of the decision that he had taken years back, because he is emphasizing on his decision, and that is why he says, and I took the one less traveled by. Okay, so he says, I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. See, we know that there is no turning back, isn't it? And whenever we take a decision, we do not know what's going to happen. Okay, now he chose the street where people did not travel much. Okay, it was less traveled. So here we see that there is a difference between the mainstream path and his free will path. So the poem, it talks about how we are frequently compelled to settle on choices, including options. We are given options. And this subject, it interests to everybody because we can relate to this poem. And it is an issue, it's regularly looked in life. We often come across this situation where we are in a dilemma. And over here, you see, there were two streets, there were two paths, that were very different. And standing at the intersection where he has to choose one, he chose the one which was less traveled by. So you see, the first and the last stanza, they are the indication of the chance to choose, okay, and to settle on a decision. And that is why you see in the last stanza, the speaker has left the fork in his life strip, and he is thinking back on it. And you see, no one knows where the street not taken may have driven. But somewhere, I have already told you, I feel that he is happy that he didn't take that road, okay, the road that he had not taken. Now, coming to the third line of the last stanza, that is wood. You see, the first stanza says yellow wood, and over here you see the word yellow is missing. So, somewhere yellow, we discussed a lot on yellow in our last class to sound very congruous with CBSE and to make your life little easy. Though I do not very confidently say that yellow is autumn, but let me stick to this autumn thing because autumn symbolizes change, autumn symbolizes impermanence and indecisiveness, where in the later part of his life, he has embraced the decision. He has already chosen, he has already decided, okay, and that was a long time back when he was confused, and he has already moved on, okay. That is why you see that yellow is missing in the last stanza. Why? Because yellow was there, that indecisiveness was there, that change was there when he uh, had set on his journey. But ages and ages, after ages and ages, you see that dilemma has been solved. He has already accepted the change. So we see that the word yellow is missing, okay. So, this explains the poem, and we complete this poem. Next class, we will begin with a new chapter. Saturday, that is Saturday. And Saturday, you may also, if you have any questions regarding this poem, you may just ask when we go live on Saturday. Okay? Till then, thank you.